We're at that time of the year when tax returns for the income earned in the year 2022 have to be declared and submitted in accordance with Section 60 of the Income Tax Act. We also wish to remind you that for year of assessment 2023, the current year, an individual or a body of persons which was registered in or carrying on business in Guyana shall, on or before a prescribed date in every year, deliver to the Commissioner General a true and correct return of the whole of his income from every source whatsoever for the year immediately preceding the year of assessment. And if you're absent from Guyana, you shall give the name and address of an agent residing therein. It therefore means that the income earned by anyone during or at the end of the year 2022 must be declared in the form of a tax return and submitted to the Guyana Revenue Authority on or before the prescribed date of April 30, 2023, which is the year of assessment. And the GRA continues to encourage taxpayers to register with its eServices platform, Optimal eServices, so that you can complete your returns quickly and easily. Now, in this program, I'll be inviting my colleague who's in studio with me, Mr. Dindi Also, to explain the fields that represent the different sources of income. And later on in the program, I'll be joined virtually by the head of GRA's IT department, Mr. Ceci Jones, who will be explaining the benefits of going online as opposed to standing in line. Focus on GRA begins right now. Subject to Section 7A of the Customs Act, Chapter 8201, an environmental levy of $10 shall apply on every metal, plastic, or glass container of alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage or water. Importers, local manufacturers, and producers of such products must pay the levy upon importation, warehousing, or removal of the product from the warehouse, factory, bond, or any other place of storage. Payment of the levy shall be made by the manufacturer or producer no later than 15 days after the end of the month during which the goods were sold or removed. A person who fails to pay the levy commits an offense and is liable to a fine of $50,000 together with a sum twice the amount of the levy payable. Officers from the GRA's Environmental Levy Unit will be conducting scheduled field visits to sensitize and enforce compliance with the laws. For more information, contact the GRA's Environmental Levy Unit on 227-6060, extension 2501 or 2503. Welcome to Focus on GRA. This is a program of information for taxpayer education. Now, Optimal eServices facility allows for online submission of tax returns, management of your taxpayer profile, and you can also send and receive secure messages. But in order for you to benefit from these facilities, you must have an eServices account. Visit the GRA's YouTube channel and click on the Signing Up for eServices video demo to find out how you can register for eServices. You can also call the Tax Advisory Services Support Team 227-6060, extension 8001 for assistance. But as we're here, let's get started. This is where I'll be inviting my colleague, Mr. Dindi Also, a certified tax consultant, to explain further. Sources owned through the public treasury. This applies to persons in budget and state agencies.
This is a statistical information here. That is, if you receive salary or wages from a government entity, whether it's a public operation, a government ministry, a government department, that has to go in. Salary or wages from sources other than the public treasury. Here is where, as I said, a hairdresser, he or she will put in her bit here.
And next we have net capital gains deemed income. Who does this apply to?
You will probably buy a property and you sell it within a certain year, or depends if it's 25 years and over, whatever. And if you get an income there, you put that figure in. Here again, you have to do a computation to show how you arrive at the net capital gains.
And what about all charges or annuities arising in Guyana or elsewhere?
You probably will have an annuity in Guyana here. It depends from some insurance company or somewhere you may set up. And if you do, you put that in there because there's an income. rents, royalties, premiums, and other profits arising from property in Guyana. Now, here's the case where you have rented properties, and rented properties attract the net income, attract the tax. But you have to draw up a rent account. You must draw up a rent account to show how you arrive at the figure.
Okay, so in that case, under the less allowances column, you would have to include things like your wear and tear, your profit and loss from estates or agriculture, trade or business, land development, etc.
Wear and tear allowance, you have to do what is called a wear and tear schedule on your assets. Like transport company would have lorries and that, and they're entitled to wear and tear allowance because they use that to earn the income. I'm coming to that just now too. Trade losses in previous years, well, a computation must show how you arrive at that trade loss because it's a relief. Land development expenditure, there is provision in the Income Tax Act if you develop land for agricultural purposes or for housing, you get an allowance for that. The Income Tax Act specifies that. And then you carry the total to the next column and you deduct it, and that reflects your balance of the income. That is the income for now, which is a subtotal that is subject to charge, but you have some deductions, you put that in. And even if you partly started this business, as I said, during the year, you're going to entitle to the full personal allowance. Employee NIS, if you employ someone, the NIS is a charge against profit. But your, as proprietor, is not allowable.
Now, profit and loss statements. This refers to the declaration of your income as against your expenses. Is there a distinction between profit and loss, income and expenditure?
It is known by many names. Accountants call it many names. Income statement, operating statement, profit and loss account. It all means the same thing. So don't get confused.
Now, this would be a good time to expound on the expenses allowed as against those not allowed.
All expenses, which I'll go through some just now, must be wholly, necessarily, and exclusively in relation to the business. For instance, if you run a business downstairs and you live upstairs, ensure that you have a separate meter for electricity and water upstairs. For the business, you will have a separate electricity meter, also water and other utilities where it's a, right? If you use the same telephone for private, for business and personal, you have to make an allowance. You have to make when you compute your profit. I'm coming to that very quickly just now to give you an idea how you do the computation. In the business, you will have expenses like rates and taxes, which you pay to the municipality. And don't confuse house tax with property tax. It's two separate taxes. The property tax we talk about comes under the Property Tax Act. And probably a later program we will do that. But for now, we're talking about the municipality like Georgetown City Hall tax. If the tax is one assessment on that building, you'll have to get a valuation and charge the element of rates and taxes to the business. The balance is your account because you occupy upstairs. You employ someone in your business, more than one, your wages are allowed. Stationery and printing, you print your bill books, that is allowed. If you have an agreement with your employees that is either you have an agreement with them where you pay part of their traveling expense from home to workplace, or if you provide a transpay for pick up your employees only from home to workplace, that cost incurred is allowable, right? Let me repeat. The cost of transportation, traveling from home to the business for work is allowable. If you run a bus to pick up your employees to work, and many firms have that expense in running that bus, maintenance, repairs, all is allowable, right? Good. But it must be in writing So the GRA will ask you at some time to submit those contracts.
So what about private expenses? If I have a private car, are my private car expenses allowed?
Your private motor car expense is not allowable.
Yeah, so GRA's eServices is by far the most convenient way of submitting returns online, but unfortunately there's still a significant number of taxpayers who are not registered and are still submitting returns manually. So I've invited the head of GRA's IT department to share his views on some of the factors that may contribute to the person standing in line as against going online. Mr. Jones, welcome to the program. Why are some persons not registered and are not using eServices?
When it comes to the mindset of the taxpayer who seem to be insistent on using manual processes instead of our online services, it caused me to think, what are the key obstacles that they see, right? One, I think technology may be a challenge with certain age groups, right? But it's been around for a while now. We should be getting past that. Internet access may be another issue. From the stats that we've seen, the majority of Guyanese have access to the internet, either from home or at work or whichever means. But the majority of Guyanese actually have regular access to the internet. So in terms of the requirements to get online, we don't deem that to be the obstacle. The obstacle is your willingness to actually conduct this business with us online. The other element, which you can't discount, is trust. If I use this technology, is something going to go wrong and my document's going to disappear or like that? Believe it or not, that fear exists, right? When in fact, you are more likely to have a much more transparent process online than you will walking in, right? We have had cases, and I can admit this, we have had cases where documents either been misplaced or something, so we have to track it down and go find it before we retrieve it. In the meantime, that slows down the processing of a taxpayer's transaction. However, once you come online, that is it. Once you make those returns, you would have seen your document keyed. Once you finalize the process, it will tell you it's approved. It will adjust your balances in front of you to tell you what your current liabilities are. So that there is real-time feedback of the impact of your transaction online.
Interesting. Well, we certainly hope that our discussion erases any fears that the taxpaying public may have about using eServices. But you can find out how to register for GRA's eServices. Just visit our YouTube channel or our social media platforms to find out more. And you can also call the eServices support team 227-6060 extension 8001 for assistance. If you didn't sign up for eServices and you are submitting returns manually, we encourage you to download the PDF fillable forms from the GRA's website. There are several electronic copies of a number of forms for various tax types available to the public via our website. And that's all the time we have for this week's Focus on GRA. For more information, visit our website, gra.gov.gy. You can also send us your inquiries via email, grapublicrelations@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on our social media pages for up-to-date tax-related information. Thank you for watching. Fabian Krause saying take good care of yourselves and each other.